It's a time for more packages from China. Let's go. With the Sega Genesis, or in this case the Mega Drive plug-and-play red version. So we do have all kinds of different, let's say, editions. I can still remember that these things were for sale like years later, after like the Mega Drive was perished from the stores. And I mean, in particular, when it comes to, let's say, there was nothing you can actually find. These things were like squeezed out like crazy, and many of these devices came out. However, this controller is completely nostalgia, with a simple reason, because it's based on the first version of the Sega. I don't know if they actually copied a mold or whatever it is. This thing looks pretty legit when it comes to that. So, however, the form factor of these controllers are very comfortable, and to be honest, and I think this has to do with the wear and tear of the original controller. If you're going to be comparing this, yeah, the D-pad of the old school, let's say, Sega Genesis controller, it's not like super bad, but I personally prefer the 6-button controller when it comes to that. But it was absolutely cool just to see this and just to have a little bit of enjoyment of the nostalgia vibe of the controller itself. But the quality itself, you can just feel that there is a little bit of difference between the 3 buttons, and this is one of the indications. What I find quite interesting is if you're going to be looking into the button shape, you can see that it's been formed in a certain way that makes it a little bit more comfortable, and it's kind of interesting. And in here we're finding the menu button, because this thing has multiple games. Next up, we're having the system itself. It does have a nice way to it when the batteries are implemented. We can just power it on over here, and then of course we need to put the batteries in here, already implement them. So that's it. And when it comes to plugging in, I think there is an option even for a 6-volt power supply, so that it would be interesting if you're going to be using this at home, or of course, so what is kind of cool is that, let's say, the battery compartment is completely ruined because most of the people will forget to freaking pull out the batteries. That happens a lot when it comes to these plug-and-play devices. Connection-wise, it's going to be old school, so let's try a CRT to begin with. Let's go fully retro mode with the CRT. Okay, so let's power on the system itself, and let's go in the Sega toys. We're going to be flickering, we're going to be changing out to 50 Hz because, yep, it's not a Sega Genesis. I think the biggest downside to these freaking devices is that we're only going to have a couple of games. There's not like a massive library, and updating them to, let's say, having like 100 plus games is not possible so far, I understand. So let's check it out, what is going on. We're having Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Echo the Dolphin, Columns, the Ooze, okay, Gain Ground, and Alex Kidd. So let's start off with Alex Kidd. Let's see how this freaking thing works. Pressing menu will automatically bring you back to the main menu. Yeah, there's a little bit of downside. There was no quick load, quick save when it comes to that. Yep, and this is going to be sounding really slow for a lot of you guys, because this is just the PAL shenanigans that we needed to live with. Yep. Back in the day, I didn't know that the PAL was so horrible. Okay, but beside that point, let's get into the game. Normally I'm almost dying with the first car that's trying to hit me. The sound also sounds kind of weird, but that has to do because of the mono. I think that's another thing. The overall emulation performance of these things are pretty bad. But the question remains, is it so bad that this is not going to be really enjoyable? I do wonder one thing, so how many people will like Sonic 2? So where Sonic 1 is absolutely nostalgia for me, I'm more like a Sonic 1 / Sonic 3 and Knuckles fan. Personally, in Sonic 2, I can still remember that my nephew actually had this. He was older than me. But where I think Sonic 2 was absolutely a great game, for me it's not going to be like the older one. I can still remember back in the day, I never really owned it. I think I rented it a couple of times through that store called Videoland. But beside that, I know Sonic 3 and Knuckles was for me like the ultimate combination, and absolutely a lot of fun. The downside is, like, with the mono and the bad emulation, is that when it comes to visual-wise, on an old school CRT this just looked great, but if you're going to be listening to the sound effects, the ring sound, oh, my ears are bleeding, and you can see that the jumping sound is really muted out. Not to a point you cannot hear it, but it's very difficult to notice. But if you're going to be playing this on CRT, I think it's just okay. It would be cool to have like these plug and play devices with Genesis games. I do wonder if they're out there and how much they're actually going to be costing. Because where they released so many of these freaking devices, finding them sometimes for a good deal is quite interesting because it's going to be a challenge itself. Because I noticed some stores were asking a lot of money and even more crazy amounts of money if they're going to be complete unboxed. Another game that I personally never got into was the Echo the Dolphin. Such a cool visual, nice looking game. I can also remember, didn't they release the sequel on the Sega Genesis then? I guess I remember getting into a certain point that all the creatures and all the sea creatures were going to be sucked out of the freaking sea. I always found that such a weird thing. Where I'm a big fan of puzzle games on Tetris, I was never really got into that column thing. The same goes with Dr. Mario, another game that is cool, but never got really into that too. But beside that, I got some really strange music. I do wonder like who was making these like say decisions of like putting what game on plug and play. Also, what kind of limitations did they have? Did they have limitations regarding storage capacity, or is it licensing stuff? It's still very interesting when it comes to that. This is kind of a fun game. I've been playing this on the ad games, plug and plays. I think if your character dies, it just actually dies and you cannot select it anymore. Do we need to collect this? Oh yeah, there we go. Oh yeah, getting this power up. That's such a cool idea. Oh, we need to kill every single enemy or just going to the exit. I do want, let me know in the comments, did you ever have these plug and play devices and play them in the car, having like these mobile screens? But that was actually the idea, to just have this particular like say item or this controller. And then we have so many different of these very weird games. So this is one of the games that is kind of fun, it's kind of challenging, but it doesn't really appeal to me. So that's actually a small collection. Then of course we're having the Ooze, that's another game that I have no connection with. For me, like, this is not like one of my favorite plug and plays because many of these games have no really connection. Sonic 2 is cool, of course. 1995, the Ooze. Oh, that sound is so freaking awful. It's so freaking awful. Oh man, oh man, oh man. Part 1, okay. Again, a lot of intro stuff. The only thing the only ones I played it was on the endgame systems. It's such a weird game.